I can log in and say, let me see everyone who we transacted with last week. And it pulls up a list and I can just click a button and it's going to send them a message to say, hey, thanks for a smooth transaction. Or I want to see everyone who's most likely to leave the business without some serious intervention. And we can segment the database to show a list of your own agents that are showing those behavior markers that look like, hey, if we don't get involved with this person and we don't help them along, they'll likely not survive.
What's going on, world, today? And guess what? We are still on our IOI Summit, which is in Chicago, because we are all about innovation, opportunity, and investment. And what I have the great honor of doing is interviewing the 12 companies that have been selected for the pitch battle. These 12 companies were selected out of over 100 companies in the prop tech space. And so I love it when I have a female prop tech founder, one that I've had the opportunity to interview before, to be able to interview her again because she is a true innovator. What's going on, Diana?
Hey, Marky, how are you? It's so good to be here. I had so much fun last time we met, so I'm very excited to be back on.
Well, I'm excited to have you back on because every time I see you, I have questions to ask you because we're in such an interesting time in real estate. And I'm going to let you tell everybody what Maverick is, but I need you. Like, I need your tool. And here's the reason. I'm seeing right now, as we navigate the NAR settlement agreement, that there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between the broker and the agent. I believe that brokers are going to have to step it up, okay? And I need brokers to act as the broker and answer their agents' questions. However, I'm going to give a shout out to my girl, Tracy Royal, who is a licensed managing broker and I believe broker of record for a Coldwell Banker office here. And she said, yeah, Marky, it's great to blame the broker. However, what do you do when the real estate broker is having consistent meetings, education sessions, town hall meetings, sent up smoke signals, sent text messages and emails? And she's done all this. She knows when her agents are opening their emails, when they're not, how they're communicating with her. She says, how do you want me to disseminate this information? And then do I allocate special time? But you have all the insight.
Yeah, well,
on how agents respond, react, communicate. So you founded Maverick, and I want you to tell everybody what Maverick is all about.
Yeah, so Maverick Systems is boiled down. The short of it is an agent recruitment, retention, and coaching platform. So we know brokerages essentially make money on having a very large and productive agent pool. And so we provide the insights into number one, who's in your market, what are they doing, what are they struggling with, and that's not unique because there are data providers on the market. Getting agent data is not really that unique. Some data providers provide a little bit more in-depth data than others. At Maverick Systems, we're providing over 70 data points on every agent in your market. But we don't stop there. What I found was having the insights is critical, but most brokerage leaders are looking at an agent and they're looking at what that agent's done in production. Are they up? Are they down? And then generally the draw is to send one mass email to everyone to say, hey, this is, I'm from ABC Realty. This is what we do really well. We'd love to have a conversation with you. And what we do is we take all of those data points and we segment out our clients' database to say, you don't want to have the same conversation with everyone in your market, because somebody who's been in business 1 year and is really struggling to make enough, essentially to earn enough income to make this a full-time business, that's going to be a really different conversation than somebody who is a veteran, who's been in the business a long time, has seen different market cycles, and the things that resonate with them are going to be completely different. And so we're helping our clients not just understand the data, but put it into action. And the platform also has that actual physical mechanism of mobilizing that data, which most data vendors do not currently have.
Okay, now one thing, and this is how I interpreted what you stated, because I went to go take a look at your website. I'm making an assumption that you have a similar to a disc profiling system inside of your system, because I saw who would make the best buyer agent, who's the top producer. And so if we start thinking about disc, which is pretty big inside of Exit, inside of KW, they do a lot of disc profile. Well, you can do disc based on a person's LinkedIn account or Twitter account or Facebook account, right? Through different browser extensions. So I was looking, I was like, okay, you're telling me they're a top producer and things about their personality, because now I don't send them the same identical message I would send someone else. I'm sending them a segmented, the brokers improving their customer service.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not necessarily doing this, but we're looking at the transactional data. So we're pulling a ton of information from the MLS about that particular agent, and then looking for very specific markers within that transactional record to say that based upon this person's start date, how many transactions they've had, are they up or are they down? When was their most recent transaction? But kind of like picking out several data points that we can pull together, then we get a very distinct profile about that person. Once I've got that profile, we can tag that persona in our client's database, and then I can start to make assumptions about this person.
So let me ask you this, and I am putting you on the spot, so I don't know if you can do this or not. Based on the NAR settlement agreement, can you take a look at agents' behavior in 2023 versus what we've seen in the first half of 2024 and tell us how they might have changed? I know we can look at the productivity, but maybe some other key factors summarizing all of that data on what we need to do as brokers to be there for them or even more effective communicators?
Yeah, so I think one thing that pops to mind for me would be to look at first list side percentage, because I want to know, are you heavy buy side or heavy list side? Because the way we navigate the coming changes is going to be different if you're a buyer agent versus a seller agent. So I could look at that. We can look at how many listings you've taken over the course of the last year, how many of those have gone on to close, how quickly you've closed them, how close to list price you've closed them, and start to build sort of like what I call a listing funnel to see how this agent is handling their listings. How many are they securing? How effective are they in handling those listings? And then I can start to focus training resources to those areas. And so for me, this is not just a coaching opportunity, but it's also a tremendous retention opportunity. And I actually want to share a couple of different trends and like data points that I've been seeing. So on a macro level, agents are more mobile. Agent recruitment is like a hot topic. I think an Inman called 2024 the year of the recruiting wars. And so we know this is a really hot topic. And we actually looked at the data, and I can tell you within a span of 10 years, agent movement from one real estate firm to another has doubled, going from about 12% of agents moving in 2011 to over 24% moving to another firm in 2020. So macro level, we know agents are more, we know they're being recruited more than ever, and they are moving. At a micro level, I think the last year, for a couple of reasons, it's been sort of the market uncertainty and also all of the stuff happening with the NAR settlement has caused agents to sit tight. So we saw that movement started to drop a little. It's kind of coming back, and I think it'll continue to come back as agents feel more comfortable about the future. But it's been sort of like a sit and wait type of attitude over the last year. So I think we're poised for agent movement to increase again. Okay. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for brokerage leaders to demonstrate their value to the agents and how they help them navigate the coming changes. And then if I can serve up the insights to my clients to say, here's what these agents are struggling with, or here are some areas of opportunity that I'm finding just looking at their transactional record, then brokerages can tailor those coaching, or recruiting conversations to that.
Looking, I would go micro. What do you believe the number one issue real estate agents have today?
Gosh, I think there's a lot of noise in the industry, to be honest. I think that's probably one of the hardest things that agents have to navigate. If you think about just looking through the recruitment lens, say you're an active, productive, working agent, and you are just doing your thing, and you're doing some production and you're very consistent, you're going to get a ton of recruiting calls, especially like a market like Chicago. And I think we've talked about this before. I'm a Chicago girl too. So I'm North Side Cubs fan.
Yeah, South Side Sox fan.
Albany Park. But yeah, so especially in a market like Chicago, it's a huge market. And so imagine how many brokerages are in Chicago. As an agent, how many recruiting calls are you fielding every single day? How many recruiting emails are you getting? And it's just a ton of noise. So it's hard for me to sort of sort through that to see who is actually going to be helpful for me. What brokerage is actually going to make sense for me to listen to and to align with. Mm-hmm. And not just that, there's like a ton of tech out there. There's a ton of webinars out there. I mean, there's just so much information. So as an agent, it's very difficult to see what is going to be of value to you.
And you know what? I make the assumption, and I know it's the wrong assumption to make, that everyone knows that Skylar is my son. So my son is a second generation realtor, and he successfully closed 6 figures in 6 months. And so he's on his way to a $200,000 year. Awesome. With that being said, right, everybody's recruiting him because his productivity increased 151% year over year. And he sends it to me kind of like bragging and rubbing it in that people want him.
Yes.
And all I think to myself is, do they know I'll come lay hands on them recruiting you, right? Like, I get offended by every single recruiting message that he says, right? And I try not to look at who said it because I do not want to see other realtors in the street. Yeah, and I hope they're listening. And I want to just knock them in their throat because they're so funny. You're going to recruit my child of all the people to recruit, right? And so, yes, I do know that they are actively recruiting. Is there a best way in which a broker should reach out and communicate? Are you seeing communication trends and what works better?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. What I've seen at my former company, I worked with hundreds of firms across the nation, big firms, little firms, teams, you name it. And I found some very common challenges across the board. And it fell into one of a few different buckets. So either they were doing mass, and excuse the term, very spammy email campaigns where it's one message to everyone and it's constant. Those don't resonate. And honestly, in the new age right now, it's like you have to be really careful too with the kind of messaging that you're sending, because if you send enough spam, you're going to get blacklisted, and you don't want that. The other side of the spectrum was that they were doing really not a whole lot. Like they were lacking a system in how they approached agent recruitment. And I think the best strategy is to first get access to really insightful data, which again, that's not hard to find. There's good data out there. But the second component that you want to be very sure that you have in whatever recruiting system you choose is you need some sort of data interpretation. So if I'm giving you, like I said, at Maverick, we provide 70 different data points on an agent. And if I read you each one, you'd say, yes, I understand all of them and it makes all perfect sense to me. But if I don't have a way of parsing that data for my clients and segmenting their database and then wrapping it in strategy for them, that data will most likely just sit there. So that data interpretation piece for us, I feel like is our most important component. And then finally, you need a mechanism to actually mobilize that data. And traditionally, this is going to fall into a CRM. because agent recruitment really is a sales and marketing function, a CRM makes a lot of sense to have, because that's where you're going to launch any kind of communication, whether it's phone calls, emails, and then you can start to track it. We build agent recruitment funnels and dashboards into our platform. So now you can track inputs and outputs. What do your activities look like? What kind of results are you getting? And then we can adjust from there.
So compared to recruiting a decade ago, what does a broker, when we think about the current market, and we definitely have to have a mindset shift, what type of mindset shift does a broker have to have today in order to be successful in recruiting?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So that brings me to another stat that when we look at the data, we can say pretty confidently in today's climate, a typical brokerage can expect about 25% of its annual volume to exit every year. Some of that is agents leaving the business. Some of that, majority of that is agents going to another firm. So I think in years past, and I was an agent years and years ago, I worked for Century 21 and Schaumburg actually. But back then it was like, recruitment was a little bit more passive. So you would talk to people that you knew in your area, people that you met at networking events, people that you transacted with. Where today, because it's so competitive, the mindset shift needs to be that this is something that we have to engage in every day. It has to be part of our operations. It just needs to be part of our daily workflow. And we need to have systems that are going to make that really easy, because if you think about who's really doing the heavy lifting of recruiting, it's generally office managers. And an office manager is not a full-time salesperson, which this is a sales function. So we need to then be able to serve up the insights and serve up the strategies and have as much automation built into that platform so that if I'm a manager and I'm running my office, I can log in and say, let me see everyone who we transacted with last week. And it pulls up a list and I can just click a button and it's going to send them a message to say, hey, thanks for a smooth transaction. Or I want to see everyone who's most likely to leave the business without some serious intervention. And we can segment the database to show a list of your own agents that are showing those behavior markers that look like, hey, if we don't get involved with this person and we don't help them along, they'll likely not survive. Or behavior markers that indicate somebody might be thinking about switching brokerages.
Now, generally, I've been able to predict or know when an agent is getting ready to leave. We'll often see a dip in productivity. Well, no, we'll see a dip in listings in the system, yet you can still publicly see them marketing their services, right?
Yes.
And there's a disconnect. So historically, I've been very good at knowing when an agent was going to leave. I will be honest with you. Recently, we had an agent that left probably in the last 60 days that just threw me off, because we were there working with this person through everything. Like, I thought we had the ideal situation, and the person never curtailed their transactions. When they left, they still had 7 pending transactions in place, closed them out. Like, yeah. And I was actually baffled. I'm still a little baffled that I didn't see it coming. And the opportunity that essentially the person left and went to was something that we absolutely don't provide. Like what they wanted to go and do, but they never even told us that's what they wanted to do. Right. And so I was just a little, and I would say I feel okay with that. Being in the industry for 25 years.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
It's pretty good, but it still throws you off because sometimes you can't do anything. Like, you're just not the fit that person is looking for, no matter what it is that you try to do. And one thing that I want to encourage brokers to think about is you still have to, we're telling real estate agents, they need to have their niche and there are certain things that they need to do. From the broker side, there are certain things that you're going to do better than others do. And there are some things that it's not your skill set and you might not be able to provide the best in resources.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard it said, right? You can't be everything to everyone. You don't try to do that, you'll end up with nothing. It's better to focus on like, we're a luxury broker, or we're really strong in our training programs, or whatever it is that firm does really well. And the cool thing is, like, if you have your value prop as a brokerage down really tight, you can then identify the agents that's going to resonate with in the data. And then you can speak their language a lot more effectively than if you're trying to go after someone who really just isn't a fit for you. So that's why I don't like that whole shotgun approach, but rather being really smart. And it doesn't mean you can't contact everyone. You can contact, you don't have to shrink your database down, but we can segment it in a way that you're having smarter communication with them.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do. So
what is one skill set that you believe brokers need to acquire to be more successful in the future?
as far as like recruitment and retention, it's primarily recruitment, I would really start to shift the mindset and to look at it really as a sales and marketing function. And so, I would even like take your head out of our industry. Like we get sort of like in a vacuum here in real estate.
Yes.
Like get out of the real estate industry and start to think about, like I think about all the time, other industries. Like how is healthcare, or how is sales and marketing handled in healthcare for pharmaceutical sales, Or I'll think about other industries, and it's like, well, are we approaching it that way in our industry? And why aren't we, and how can we?
I'm laughing because I did a 2-year stint at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. It was number one in Zoloft sales. I lived next door to a manager of the number one HIV medication right now in the country. And so I have a lot of pharmaceutical sales reps, right, in my circle. And it is you want to come out of real estate and look at other industries. And I hate to say this, but it's the truth. What two industries that you always need to look at is one, the automotive industry, right? And then to the porn industry, because they are always, from a sales and marketing standpoint, they are always ahead of other industries. They think creatively and outside of the box, right? And think about it. The person, it might be white men are better in sales, right? Because they're probably more likely to watch. That was all speculation, right? I don't know if that's true or not. But no. What I said about the porn industry was the fact that men watch more. I don't know if that's true. And so just always taking a look outside of the industry. And one thing that I like to do consistently, I always remove myself from real estate education and go into other industries, which has allowed me to actually be more innovative and to be able to pivot and shift quicker. Because there are a lot of people who the mindset is stuck, and it's not just stuck in pre-NAR settlement agreements, right? I have agents who have been in the real estate industry longer than I have, which is now 25 years, and they're still getting ready to sell real estate.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it most definitely. So you're in the pitch battle at the IOI Summit with Maverick. And if brokerages, franchises, if they want to do business with you and have access to what you have built, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to just Maverick Systems, plural.com to get more information on the website, or you can reach out to me directly. I'm Diana, Diana, at mavericksystems.com. But I would say those are probably the two. The website is a good place to start, but message me directly.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And so I'm looking forward to it, just to take more notes, right? As we start to shift inside of our own organization. Recruiting is a very big aspect. It is sales and marketing. Real estate, to me, every aspect of it is sales and marketing. And if you do a good job at the sales and marketing aspect, you get the opportunity to be able to build those relationships. Diana, I want to congratulate you on being one of the 12 people selected to be in the IOI Summit pitch battle. and look forward to seeing your presentation.
Thank you very much. It's so great to catch up with you again. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Thank you.